I would like to continue to share some of my insights from the Medicine Buddha retreat. As I mentioned in my previous BBC, I spent some sessions pondering about the meaning of please inspire my mind. And I spent some sessions looking at the carpet while doing that. So, in one of those sessions, I received an inspiration by the way of noticing how much tension I was holding in my body. And I realized that the tension was there basically everywhere, from my toes to my eyes, my nose, my jaw. And as I was noticing that tension, I was reminded that I carry this tension with me everywhere. Wherever I go, wherever I am, whoever I am with, even when I am supposed to be resting, or even as I'm trying to go to sleep, this tension does not leave me for a moment. And so I felt inspired to look more deeply as to what is the source of this tension, and to try to understand why it's there, what are the components, and how I could possibly overcome that. So I started to look deeply into this tension in my body, and I realized that it sprung from a feeling of lack of safety, not feeling safety in my environment, which seemed to me a bit ironic because I was probably in one of the safest places on Earth. Probably one of the safest places in the universe. So that seemed quite ironic. And so the first thing that I did in terms of a little meditation session on safety was to open my eyes and say, this is a safe place. I am not confronting any danger. I'm not among enemies. I am not receiving any harm. And so just really watch that. Just really be aware of that. Recognize that that's where I am at. And so I did that for a few sessions. And even though I noticed a change in my body and a change in my mind, it didn't go deep enough. So I decided to go a little bit deeper, and I identified then what were some of these harms or dangers that I was afraid of. And as I started to dig in there, I realized that, well, I was afraid of harsh words. I was afraid of hearing unpleasant words. I was afraid of losing material possessions. I was afraid of physical harm. I was afraid of losing my reputation. And as I started digging, it just dawned on me, well, these are very much the worldly concerns. My fears are very much related to the worldly concerns. So I decided to do a little Shantideva-like meditation and go into, harsh words cannot hurt me, people's thoughts cannot hurt me, people's criticism cannot hurt me, their judgment cannot hurt me, physical harm cannot hurt me. And that helped a little bit, but I felt like there was still something more that I had not yet addressed. And so as I continued to dig in there, I realized that not only was there a whole lot of concern about those 8 worldly concerns, but also this fear was related a lot about the happiness of this life, and only the happiness of this life. So the concern or the fear was just about the happiness of this life, losing the happiness of this life, and the 8 worldly concerns. And I realized, well, this is exactly what I'm trying to abandon. I'm trying to abandon the worldly concerns, and I'm trying to abandon being overly concerned about the happiness of just this life. And so here I am with every cell of my body trying to grab onto that with all of this tension. And so it occurred to me that my feeling of safety, my definition of harm, And my definition of safety was all based on the happiness of this life and the worldly concerns. So if I wanted to change my response to safety and harm, I needed to change my definition of what harm and safety were. Because otherwise, I was not going to be able to really change my attitude towards safety. And I thought that I needed to change that definition so that it would be more aligned, more in line to my spiritual goals. And it would reflect what my new values are as opposed to the worldly concerns. And so I started to I sort of think about, okay, what would that be? What would be harmful for a spiritual practitioner, particularly a Buddhist practitioner? So I thought, well, anything that goes beyond one lifetime would be harmful. And so I said, well, if I were to do an action that would cause me to fall into the three lower realms, that would be very harmful because it would probably get me stuck there for one or more lives. So that would be a harmful thing. So safety would be not doing such an action. The other thing that would be harmful, as I was trying to look at that, was anything that would be harmful would be any action that would destroy compassion or destroy bodhicitta. That would be very harmful because it would affect a number of future lifetimes. So, that would be a danger, a big danger. Also, any action that would destroy my refuge, my sense of refuge, that would be very harmful. And again, it would affect a number of future lifetimes. And the last thing that I thought would be very harmful would be any action that would throw me off the path. So I identified those as the four major harmful and dangers, four major dangers that I needed to avoid that were really dangerous situations. And as I tried to look at those dangers versus what I had considered dangers up to that moment, what I realized is that all the dangers that I had feared that were related to the 8 worldly concerns and the happiness of this life were mostly harm and dangers caused by other people. When I looked at that new definition of harms and dangers in this new way, these are all dangers and harm that I would be causing myself. Therefore, what I felt about this new definition was that it was a lot more empowering because now I was controlling these situations that were harmful and that were fearful and scary. But they were under my control. It was just me who could launch me into the 3 lower realms. It was me who could destroy bodhicitta or compassion. It was me who would abandon the path, who would cause myself to abandon the path. Nobody else could do those things. So right then and there, I would go from being a victim under the other scenario to being someone who's empowered and who has more to say about what my future lives would look like. So it was immediately a paradigm shift, a very powerful paradigm shift. Now, this is not to say that we shouldn't be wise and put ourselves in dangerous situations. We're not going to go and walk across a busy highway because we feel like, we're now spiritual practitioners and I'm just not afraid anymore of cars going at 120 miles an hour, so I'm just going to walk through it. Of course not. We still have to exercise wisdom, not put ourselves in dangerous situations. But I think for me, reframing my own safety and well-being in this way brings me more in line with my long-term goals and spiritual values. But there's some other thing that came to light in terms of this new definition. And that is that in order to be safe, in order to avoid harm, I don't need to build a bunker, which, I've considered that before. I don't need to build a moat around my house. I don't need to live in a fortress. I don't need to, own a gun or a machine gun or any of that. Basically, safety lies in my practice. And that's it. Safety is equal to my practice. And is that simple. Now, that was the conclusion of this meditation. And I don't think that it has, even though it was the conclusion of the meditation, it hasn't yet quite landed. I will have to get to that conclusion a number of times, but I think I feel much better about how I feel in terms of my own safety now that I have redefined it and looked at it from a very much a spiritual point of view rather than a worldly point of view. So.